Howdy everyone, this is Trisha and welcome to my channel. As you can see in front of you, I have this lovely clay pot. This clay pot has a lot of history in it. It is an antique. It was around before I was around, and I'm about to be 55 this year, so that just gives you an idea of how old this pot could possibly be. This belonged to my father's mother, our Mama Angelita. That is what we called her. Angelita was her name, and we just were very respectful towards her and called her Mama rather than Grandma or Abuelita. This was her water jug, and she kept it out in her patio. And I remember as a very little girl visiting her in Mexico and going out into her patio, and she kept this outside. It was in a covered patio filled with fresh, clean water. And they had a plate on top of it. It was a tin plate, and then there was another little tin cup on top of that plate. And we used to take the little tin cup and dip it in and get some nice fresh water. And then we would rinse it off in a little jug that she kept over to the side, and we would run some water over the little cup, put it back on the plate. We always had to rinse it off before we put it back, so the next person would have a nice clean cup. Isn't that interesting? Well, I thought it was, and I thought I'd share that with you. But anyhow, I've had this water jug for quite a few years now. I can't really tell you exactly how long it's been, but it's been at least 15 years, I believe, that I've had this. This water jug, I've had it, and I had an arrangement. It took me a while before I actually did commit to putting an arrangement in it. It was either just going to be just sitting there taking dust, or I was going to use it. So I have already placed some styrofoam in there before. I had already glued some on the edge and put an arrangement in there, but some time ago I took that all out. I took it apart and I put this in my garage. So I pulled it out today because we recently cleaned out our garage and I dusted it. So you'll see some little stains on it, some wear on it. Obviously it used to be a beautiful green color. That's completely worn out. It's got some paint splatters on it from who knows where, from when or why, but it's still very dear to me. And this is the way that I got it when I finally was able to have it for myself. It's a lovely memory, and I want to put it back out into my home, inside of my home I should say. And I'm going to make arrangements, so I'm going to show you what I'm going to put in this. This is going to be a floor arrangement, and that's why the pot is right now on the floor. So I'll be working on it while it is on the floor. And so now let me show you the supplies that I'm going to use. All right, everyone, so I have these dry florals, and it's like these long grasses. And these look like there may have been some little sort of like little seed pods or something, and they were put together to look like a floral stem here. And you can see here it's like in a green and creamy color. I also got these in these pink. I don't recall where I purchased these from. Here's the label if you want to look that up. But anyway, you can find dry florals, you know, like Hobby Lobby, Michael's, any floral supply store. They'll have dry florals. I think maybe even like Walmart will have them. Alright, and I'm also going to be using this fern, which I'll use at the base of the pot to fill it in. Alright, and here I have some foam that I'm going to be recycling, some packaging foam, and I'm going to use this to fill in my pot so that I can insert my florals or my greenery into it. Okay, so I'm also going to be using these little wooden picks or greenery picks. They're just little dowel sticks really. They do have a little bit of a taper here on the bottom where they would be inserted into the styrofoam, and I'm going to be using these to get the styrofoam to attach well inside the pot, and if I need to give any of the fern leaves any length, I can also use this. I don't have this right here in front of me, but I can also use some floral wire and some floral tape, and if I use those, I'll show you those. I'm also going to be using a little craft knife to cut up the foam, the styrofoam. I'm going to be using wire cutters to cut up the bush of the fern, and I'll probably use some scissors to create this. I'm also going to be using my hot glue gun and some glue sticks. Alright everyone, let's get to making this beautiful arrangement that I have in my head. Okay, so here's my pot, and my pot already has some styrofoam in there from the previous arrangement, and it also had this piece in there, but it's not glued in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the wooden sticks that I showed you, these right here, so that when I can put the styrofoam in there, I can push this through the top styrofoam and the bottom styrofoam. Now, if you don't have anything inside of your container, of course, you put some glue in there and stick your styrofoam in there with that. Now, if you need to cut this, you can use your wire cutters to snip here on the wood, or your hard craft scissors for that. Now, that'll keep that styrofoam from moving around. But if I want to put a little bit more, I'm going to add this one right here. So I'm going to actually cut this in half. Let's put this piece that way. I'm actually just sticking it right into that little stick that's already in there. And this is going to make a lot of mess, but I'll just sweep that up. And just to make sure that that doesn't move, I'm going to put another stick over here, stick it all the way in to grab the other styrofoam. Okay, so this is pretty well filled with styrofoam. I've got enough surface there where I can add my stems into it. Now, one step that I'm not going to do, but you could do, is you could cover this with some Spanish moss or some green moss if you want to do that. Okay, next step. Okay, so the next step would be decide how tall I want my arrangement to be. So I'm just going to take one of these. Let's see which one is the longest one. Looks like this one here, this green one, is the longest one. So I'm going to go ahead and insert it right down the center and push it down. Then I'm going to look at the height, and if I feel like that's a good height, that's where I'm going to go ahead and choose. But I am noticing that it kind of angles out this way, so I want to go ahead and reinsert this so that it doesn't come out. Okay? Now this is going to be up against the wall, so I don't want it to be sticking out so that if somebody walks in front of it, it is poking out at them. And also I'm going to take into consideration how far out I want it to come out this way, and of course over on the other side. So I've gone ahead and fixed this so that it's not going straight outward. So now I'm going to go ahead and pick the next highest stems, which is this pink one. Now I want to put this one a bit lower. Actually, let me take the shortest pink, the two shortest ones, and I'll go ahead and pick this other green one here. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to take these two shorter stems so I can decide how far out I want something to go. Now, I'm not going to put anything on the outer edge of my styrofoam. I'm going to try to put everything in the center because I want to put my fern out here. And these are kind of a little bit brittle, the sticks, so be careful poking them in. There we go, just like that. And then the other one close to the center. But as you can see, it's angling out that way. Now this one is a little bit more of a draping downward. It curves down. It's because the stick is a little bit thinner. That one's a little bit thicker. So what I've done here is I have created a V. So anytime you're making a floral arrangement or something like that, you want to create not a V but a triangle. Excuse me. I'm going to go a little bit lower because I have plenty of these. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to fill within this triangle. I'm not going to worry about the bottom here because, like I said, I have fern to fill out that, and then I also have the grasses that were in the packaging. So now the next tallest one, and just to bring some light to these dark green and pink, I'm going to use this yellow, and I'm going to hold it outside of my vase or canister container and kind of do a comparison as to how high I want it to go, and then decide how far in I want it to go into the styrofoam, so then I can trim this so I don't have to stick the whole stick in there. And this will just get snipped, and right here in the front. Do it again right there. Okay, so I want it to be higher than these, lower than this. So now I want to fill in up here. I did a quick comparison. The little sticks go flying, but I'll just pick them up later. That. I want one about the height of this. So I'm just going to tear, or not tear, but cut a little bit. There we go. That's looking good. Put this one back here. Let me put it more to the center. Right there. Excuse me, I had to sit down. And then we'll push that one like that. I'm going to put this in the back. Now this is going to go against the wall, so I'm not going to worry about anything coming out that way because I want it flat up against the wall. Okay, so now I'm going to take another one. Now, if these were not strong enough to be inserted in there, then I would take the green wooden sticks that I used to put this, put into the styrofoam here to keep it all together, and I would just wire it onto the stick, the long green stick, and then put some floral tape on it to cover the wire. Okay, let's go ahead and stick a little bit more in here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do one of them, which I don't feel like I need to, but I'm going to do one of them with the stick and the floral wire and tape so that you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so here's the wooden stick. Now I wanted to point out that when I was cutting these long stems here, these are the little pieces of stem, the ones that I wanted to make shorter. These are left over, and these are nice little sticks that we could also use. So we can recycle those, or we can use the the floral wooden picks, or just a regular dowel stick. So I'm going to go ahead and use the little stick that we had left over that I cut off. And I'm going to take about 3 stems of grass here. Put them up here. Let me put this tape down. I have everything in my hand. I have to work on this arrangement on the floor because it's going to be so big that I couldn't put it on a table. Okay, so I'm going to get a long piece of wire, and that's about 12 or 14 inches of wire. And this is a, what is this? 26 gauge wire, floral wire. It's nice and thin. So I'm going to take about 4 inches of that, of the stem of the grass, and wire it. Just go around and just wire it all the way down, and then you can come back up and then just twist those 2 little end bits together. If you can. If not, just wrap them tightly around. Okay, so now wrap whatever little ends of wire you might have on there so that we get this wire on there. I'm going to trim this little bits off. Okay, so now we can use our green floral tape. Let me just cut that little end off. This is what floral tape looks like. It's a thicker roll, but I've used quite a bit of it. Now this kind of tape, you can see that. See how it's lighter right here? It's lighter right here because I pulled on it. And that's where the adhesive gets released from the tape. So you just pull on it a little bit, and that is where it becomes sticky. Otherwise it won't be sticky, and it won't roll on your item well enough. So when I started off, I make sure that I roll it within itself, rather on top of the end to catch that, so that all that stickiness, and as I'm unrolling it, I'm pulling on it, okay? And then I'm just twisting this around and just pull on it I'm pulling on it, but you're not seeing me doing it, but I'm actually pulling on it with my fingers as I'm unrolling it. And then I'm just going to come back up a little bit and then just tear it off. And then you take that little end, wrap it on there, and press it, and there you go. Also, as I was rolling it around, I was also pressing it a little bit. So that's what it'll look like. And now it's got a long stem, so if you need to make this even taller, or if you have a little short bit of grass left over and you realize, oh, you really need something taller, then you can just add some stick. I'm going to go ahead and put this one behind this stem here, this dark green. Now I'm trying to make sure I put all the grasses behind so I don't cover. There we go. go. I might have to take this one and insert it again and redirect it a little bit more forward. Okay, I'm going to continue putting more grasses now. As I put them around these other items, of course, I'm going to trim them. And if they've become too thin or too brittle, then I'm going to go ahead and use those bits of stems that I cut off that are all over the floor now. And then I can use that with the wire and the tape to insert them, unless I can go and just stick them right in. I'm going to go ahead and do so. Like I said, if you want to put a little bit of glue with your hot glue gun and stick them in there, that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to do it only because I feel like I might want to redo this again, and I probably will for the holidays. So. Okay, so as you saw, I put these taller ones, and then I've gone ahead and I filled these up with some shorter ones here and there, and then I've got a few of them here that are a little bit shorter, so I'm going to go ahead and put these here in the front. And I'm kind of like putting them in individually now, or earlier I was grabbing like 2 or 3 and then just sticking them in there, and only because the shorter that I make them, the thinner the stick is. So it's a little more brittle, so I don't want to break it. This little bit here, stick it right in there. Okay, so now we're going to prepare the fern leaves to be inserted into our arrangement. And I like to do one by one. You could cut off a cluster like this and then just stick it in there if that's what you wanted to do. Here I have some here. So what I've been doing is I've been cutting them off. Like I said, I like to do it individually. And what I do to prepare these, because they have this little knob where I remove them, and to be able to make this able to stick into the styrofoam a lot easier, what I do is I just trim it off with my wire cutters, and then I cut off some of the plastic to kind of give it a little bit of a pointed bit. So as you can see there, I can cut off a little bit more on this side. There you go, just like that. And then I want to cut off some of the leaves so I can give myself a nice length of stem to insert into the styrofoam. So I just go with my scissors right along this little plastic bit here. I just cut off little fabric leaves off of there, little bits. And there we have a little stem, and that's ready to be inserted. Now I've already prepared a few of these, so I'll go ahead and stick them in there, and then I'll go ahead and make some more and fill up the rest of it. Okay, so I'm going to take these longer bits of ferns, and I want to stick them right in the middle. Let me kind of work my way in there and slide them into the styrofoam. There we go. And take another one. And this time I'm going to make it curve this way. And just get in there in the middle somewhere. Push them in. Now you don't want these to be taller than these dry florals that you put here, okay? And now I can go behind. Like I said, this is going to go on a wall. So we don't have to worry about how it looks from behind. Just from the sides and the front. And this one I would place it on the other side just like I did this one. And then I would just go filling it in. And as I fill it in, let me get a shorter one. This is going to go in the... I can fold these up a little bit, curve them. Just curve them a little bit. So then you put them like this rather than like that. Put them like this. So they mimic the bush, because in the bush they're all coming out in different directions. And then you could have that popping out and kind of flowing downward, and then we'll put some going this way. So let me move the camera so you can see that. There you go. Put another one on this side. So we want to just curve it a little bit. Put it right in there. And these come out of the front here. And we can put some around the bottom here going outward like this. And then the rest of them can be kind of shooting out so that they're shooting out just like our. We'll pick the shorter ones for that, for example, so they don't cover up these dry florals that we put in there. Okay, so I want these longer ones. I think I said shorter, but I meant longer ones to be shooting out like that. Nice, pretty and curved. Okay, so I've maneuvered them so they can be a little bit closer, a little more the way that I want them to be coming out. I want to put some coming out the back here, and then as I come, you know, working my way towards the center, I'm going to use shorter ones like this one. They can be closer to the flowers, but I'm also going to be curving them less. They're just going to be shooting out like that, okay? But make sure they have a little bit of a curve to them so they look a little more natural. You don't want them sticking out straight up, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and continue with preparing the rest of these leaves and then filling in my arrangement. Okay, one thing I do want to say is these ferns, I do want to glue them in, so I am going to put a little bit of glue at the bottom. Not too high because I don't want my fingers as I'm pushing it in to touch the hot glue and then burn myself. So then I can go ahead and fold this. Stick it where I want it. There we go. Alright everyone, I finished putting the last of my fern leaves. I worked from the larger ones on the outer edge and then to the smaller ones inside and poked them between the other stems of my dry florals, and then I added a little bit more of the grasses. Now I kept in mind where I'm going to be placing this so that I don't put the grasses sticking out too far so that if someone walks by they don't get poked or actually break the stems. So just keep those things in mind, or they're going to be little children or animals or anything like that around the arrangement. You want to keep that safety thought in mind so they don't poke themselves with any dry florals that you might stick in there or any little twigs and things like that when you create an arrangement like this. But there we go, everyone. I'm really very proud of it. I'm very happy that I gave new life to this heirloom, and I think it had a nice little story to it, and I hope that you enjoyed it. So I'm going to give myself a big old thumbs up, and I hope that you too will give me a big old thumbs up. I want to thank everyone who has been subscribing to my channel. Welcome. I hope that you're enjoying the videos, and if you have any suggestions for any future videos, please let me know. I know that someone asked something patriotic, so I will be doing that for the upcoming 4th of July. I hope all of you had a great and a very safe Memorial Day weekend, and have a safe rest of your week. Again, thank you all for subscribing, and please share on your social medias, and as always, enjoy.